Hey, a quick note before we get started. You may have noticed we've done some renovating at Death, Sex, and Money. We have a new show logo for the first time in 6 years. I love it. Take a look if you haven't yet. The same bold words are there, death, sex, money, but more colors and parts that fit together. I hope it captures how it feels when you listen. Some feels dark, some feels bright. It's all in there. Thanks to the Slate art team for their beautiful work. It's a nice housewarming gift after the team's year plus at Slate. And let me ask you, if you haven't already, please consider supporting us and Slate by becoming a Slate Plus member. Particularly if you're someone who noticed right away that we'd redecorated. That shows that we are a part of your routine. So please help keep us there by becoming a Slate Plus member. You can sign up at slate.com/DSM Plus. Right now, membership is $15 for the first 3 months. You can also sign up on Apple Podcasts or Spotify on the Death, Sex, and Money show page. Thank you. Now, on to the new episode. Maybe we ought to update the American dream. Instead of a house with a picket fence and yard, perhaps the more attainable goal is having a small fan base of your own. To be famous, or at least to be known on the internet, is ostensibly as easy as having a phone with a mic and a camera. No down payment or mortgage required. And of course, with fans and followers comes the chance for connection, maybe adoration. But on the dark flip side comes loss of privacy, criticism, and even stalking. The first stalking laws in the United States were drafted in the 1990s, and they've slowly and unevenly been updated to address the modern reality of the internet and how easy it is for people who've never met to get hooked on each other. Alexandra Paul was in her late 40s and had been famous for decades when a woman who became her stalker knocked on her door. Alexandra was best known for her role on the 90s global phenomenon Baywatch, and interacting with fans was part of her job, part of the job she loved. The relationship with her stalker started pleasant enough, but that turned, ratcheting up until it reached an unbearable decibel, with violent outbursts, harassment of Alexandra's family members, lies spread on the internet about her husband. In this episode, I talked to Alexandra Paul about the heartbreak of losing her innate trust and love of fan interaction, and the hard work of bringing a stalking charge, how it requires endless paperwork and constant vigilance, and how that work can weigh on a marriage.
People magazine would have loved this story, but I didn't want it to be about a victim and the bad stalker and the poor celebrity. I wanted to help people understand the psychology of the celebrity stalker, how it affects celebrities, because a lot of people will say, oh, they're famous. It's just they sort of deserve it. It does go along with the territory, but that doesn't mean it's right, and we should have empathy and know how to deal with celebrity stalking.
This is Death, Sex, and Money, the show from Slate about the things we think about a lot and need to talk about more. I'm Anna Sale. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with AutoQuote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This episode is brought to you by Pluto TV. Summer of cinema is here, and Pluto TV is exploding with thousands of free movies. Feel the explosive action all summer long with movies like Gladiator, Beverly Hills Cop, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Good Burger, Stealth, Four Brothers, and Star Trek. Bring the action with you and stream for free on all your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never. Stream now at Pluto.tv.
When we first contacted Alexandra Paul about being on the show, she was adamant that she didn't just want to go over the salacious details of being stalked.
If I could share some thoughts about what people could do, I would like to. That would make me feel like I was helping someone from this experience instead of just recounting it.
Her years-long ordeal had been traumatizing and all-consuming. It also sort of made her an expert on stalking and what it can take to get law enforcement to take it seriously.
The smartest thing I did in this 13-year ordeal is that I wrote down every single touch point that we had, and it ended up being 263 pages of notes.
Alexandra had started looking through her notes last summer. She had learned that her stalker had died from cancer. And with that news, Alexandra started reflecting on what she and her stalker had been through. I first heard about Alexandra's story because of an essay she wrote for The Ankler, which is a Hollywood newsletter about the entertainment industry. Her writing in it was so captivating. It made this somewhat unusual experience of being a very famous person feel really resonant. So we asked her to read some of her piece from The Ankler, so you could hear about her experience in her own words.
Okay. So let me just get it. It should be up. Okay. And are you taping now?
Yes, we're all set.
Okay. I place my grocery bags in the back seat and am starting my car to leave the parking lot in Santa Monica. Suddenly, the passenger door opens. As soon as I see who has slipped into the passenger seat, I start screaming. I grab wildly at the door handle, leap out, and start running to the store to beg for a security guard, but there are footsteps right behind me. I double back to my car and frantically lock the doors. There is banging on the window, urgent shouting. I cover my head, lean into the steering wheel, try not to look. I have been repeatedly advised never to interact. That rewards them, encourages them. But here I am, reacting, interacting, losing all the calm and resolve I worked so hard in therapy to achieve. I am being stalked. This has been going on for 10 years. I've spent more than $60,000 in legal fees, hiring private investigators and installing security systems. I check the street every time I leave home, avoid interactions with fans, and rarely go to public events. I have been swatted. My husband has been hit by a car driven by my stalker. My elderly mother has been harassed at her home in another state. The Santa Monica police arrive within minutes, but the stalker is already melting into the crowd of shoppers. The policeman is young, and from the way he keeps telling me to calm down, it's clear he thinks I'm a hysteric who had a falling out with a friend. That is because my stalker is a woman. A white, European woman, conventionally attractive, neatly dressed, and 20 years younger than I am. I beg the cop to follow the stalker because I need to know what vehicle she's driving this week. She rents different cars, which makes it hard to know when she's lurking outside my home. I know the more upset I get, the crazier I look, but I can't help it, especially because he's still standing there and she is getting away again. When the doorbell rang at dusk in mid-December of 2011, I opened my front door to find a slight dark-haired woman in her 20s, dressed in Lululemon, standing calmly with a tow-headed boy about 6 years old. In a quiet voice tinged with an almost imperceptible German accent, she asked if her little brother could use the bathroom. They lived 3 hours away, she explained, and had been playing at the beach nearby. Always the people pleaser, I invited them in. I made small talk with her and introduced my husband, Ian, while the little boy used the toilet. The next day, a note was left at our door, thanking us for our kindness. A few days later, some chocolates with another note. Shortly after that, a third note, apologizing for the other notes and making a request for the little boy to personally give me a picture he had drawn. Ian called the phone number she had left and told her, in no uncertain terms, to leave us alone. And for 9 months, she did. Then, she moved into a bedroom in a house just a block away. And so it began. It was slow at first, nearly imperceptible. She found me at the community pool and made small talk. Wanting to be polite, I responded. She'd appear on the trail outside my house when I was hiking, so I stopped walking alone. Then she joined my gym and always chose the cardio equipment next to me. I started working out earlier and earlier to avoid her, but she showed up earlier and earlier too. It was eerie how she always knew where I was. I alerted the management at the gym, but there was nothing they could do. So I left that gym because they could not legally require her to leave. Everything she had done so far was completely legal. As time went on, her attitude towards me vacillated from awkward adoration to hatred for my husband, to a certainty that I needed rescuing from him, to anger at both of us for ignoring her, to an insistence that I really was in love with her. Finally, several years after she'd launched a harassment campaign, law enforcement arrested her outside her home. Since she was in the country illegally, with an arrest record for theft and now with a warrant for harassment, she was jailed and then deported back to Germany. She would be unable to legally return for at least a decade. We breathed a sigh of relief. We thought it was over. We were completely wrong. Within 2 years, my stalker had re-entered the United States through Canada and launched what was probably the most damaging attack of all. An online campaign against my husband, accusing him of pedophilia. Ian is a triathlon coach, and although companies and clients knew the accusations were false, monstrous allegations like that can tarnish the best of reputations. As head coach of the LA Tri Club, Ian was hired to host a series of Instagram live sessions for new triathletes who were headed to their first race. She crashed them by flooding the comments sections from various fake accounts. There were so many disruptions, in fact, that Ian had to end the Instagram series after just 2 sessions. And soon afterwards, when our sharp-eyed mail carrier notified us that she was sitting in a van outside our home, Ian went to photograph the license plate. She drove her vehicle straight at him. He bounced off the hood. He bounced off the hood, landing hard on the pavement, scraped and bruised, as she drove away. Celebrity stalking can get complicated. A restraining order often delights the perpetrator because it is a proof of a reaction from the celebrity. I've had an effect. I'm being noticed. The celebrity who's been warned never to interact with their harasser because this fuels their pursuit must interact with them when seeking protection through the courts. When I made my initial filing, my stalker responded with 3 retaliatory restraining orders that put us time and again in the same courtroom. I knew what the stalker would be wearing each time because she wore exactly what I had worn at the previous hearing. And the restraining orders never stopped her. She broke the first one 29 times. In 2022, 11 years after our nightmare began, Ian and I slipped out of Los Angeles in hopes of finally living in peace. We quietly sold our Pacific Palisades home, got special new IDs that protected our identities, and rented a house under an LLC. We thought we had escaped. She found us within 6 weeks. We knew because she plastered our new neighborhood with flyers that contained our names and address. And since she'd crossed state lines, the FBI got involved. But in the face of an obsessive, the law is often slow and ineffective. It took 9 months and another violation of the restraining order before she was finally arrested and sent to jail. I later learned that when she was in Germany, my stalker had been diagnosed with breast cancer and uterine tumors. But she had shunned medical care there to sneak back into the United States. It was a stunning demonstration of how all-consuming an obsession can be. In the 5th month of her incarceration, the LA prosecutor's office asked if we would agree to her release so she could spend her last days at home. We said yes. My stalker died at the age of 41 on July 29th, 2024, which is, bizarrely, my birthday.
Your birthday?
Yeah. I thought it was fitting, and I wasn't too surprised given her obsession.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have to clarify that I don't really understand her obsession, because I was advised, and I think this was good advice, is to ignore her and to not interact with her. So after the beginning of the harassment, or what was slowly sort of the feeling of discomfort about her, I stopped interacting with her. And so I know very, very little about her.
Mm-hmm. What did it feel like to just read that out loud?
When I read it alone, it was fine. But for some reason, when I read it here and I came to the part about my husband, it was harder. And part of that was because I didn't really realize how my husband was affected until I wrote the article and had to look at all the messages that he got, which were so vile and angry and violent, because he would just say, "Alexandra, I got another one," and I would just put it in the file. Mm-hmm. I didn't really read them until I decided to write the article, and then I needed to go through some of what I had saved.
Coming up, how being a celebrity and wanting to be kind to fans can become dangerous.
Generally, it's hard for me to say anything that might hurt somebody's feelings or anything like that. I do consider it a character flaw, because I believe you can be firm and direct, and I relied too much on being nice. I should have told her firmly myself.
As I reflected on my conversation with Alexandra Paul, I found myself wanting to know more about the psychological underpinnings of celebrity stalking. So in our Slate Plus episode this week, I talked to a psychiatrist about delusional disorders, including erotomania, which is the actual clinical term for the condition characterized by an individual's belief of another person being in love with them. Dr. Joe Pierre is a health sciences clinical professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at University of California, San Francisco. He also wrote a book called False: How Mistrust, Disinformation, and Motivated Reasoning Make Us Believe Things That Aren't True. And he told me that erotomania is a thought disorder that's long been documented.
So one of the first descriptions of this from, I think, a century ago was a French woman who believed that King George, I think it was the Fifth, was in love with her. And he went to see a speech, and he's, sitting on top of the castle or whatever it was, and he had moved the curtains to the window when he was addressing the crowd. And she said that the movement of the curtains was a symbol that he was expressing his love for her.
I also asked Dr. Pierre about how this kind of behavior and its relationship to mental illness complicates how law enforcement should respond. Can you protect someone from violations of their privacy while also not being punitive to someone who is sick? Dr. Pierre told me about some of the sorts of therapeutic treatments that are the most promising for treating people with these kinds of conditions.
So it's generally what it is again, start by understanding the belief, understanding the evidence, and then sort of gently raising, counter explanations. Again, coming from a non-confrontational standpoint.
That conversation is available now if you are a Slate Plus member. If you are not yet, sign up on the Death, Sex, and Money show page on Apple Podcasts and try Slate Plus for free. You can also sign up on Spotify or by going to slate.com/DSM Plus. With summer in full swing, Do you ever feel the urge to refresh your closet but not waste money on pieces you'll only wear once? For timeless, elevated classics that feel luxurious, check out Quince. Where I am in Wyoming this summer, the afternoons are getting hot, and I love having my black Quince Bermuda shorts and a white linen button-down to put on, so I stay cool and also look sophisticated, like I thought about my outfit a little. Those 100% European linen tops start at $30. There are also washable silk dresses and skirts and soft cotton sweaters for layering, versatile warm weather pieces you'll reach for again and again. Quince works directly with top artisans and cuts out the middlemen, so they give you the luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. Give your summer closet an upgrade with Quince. Go to quince.com/DSM for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/DSM to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DSM.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game, shifting a little money here, a little there, just hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill, too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help you find options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
When you hear Lululemon, you probably think of Align yoga pants, weightlessly soft, like you're wearing next to nothing. That's why you see them in class, at the grocery store, and in the park. But did you know about skirts with built-in liner shorts so you can still jump for the Frisbee? And tanks and bodysuits? With Align's iconic stretch, you won't want to take it off. And with endless style options, you don't have to. Shop in-store or online at Lululemon.com.
This is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate. I'm Anna Sale. Alexandra Paul was born in New York City in the early 1960s. She scored her first major role in 1983, starring in John Carpenter's horror movie Christine, about a killer car. Since then, she's been in over 100 movies and TV shows, from bit parts to starring roles. When Alexandra met her stalker in 2011, she was in a transitional time in her career. She was 48, an age in Hollywood, she writes, which is too old to play a mother and too young to play a grandmother.
I had been an actress for 30 years by then, and I certainly, my career, even though I was working regularly and was recognized daily and had pleasant interactions with people on the street, I was definitely on my IMDb rating was not as at its apex at all. And
what a harsh metric, IMDb rating.
We actors, we always choose external metrics to judge ourselves. But no, I wasn't on as high profile shows as I was in the 90s, like Baywatch or Melrose Place or several pilots. And yeah, it was ironic. And I had become very, I guess maybe the word would be complacent, but sort of I took for granted that my fans were respectful, and it was usually just very nice to have an interaction where someone would say, "Are you that actress on Baywatch?" And I would say, "Oh yes, what's your name?" And they would say their name, and it would be a 2-minute interaction that left us both feeling connected and
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, a little zing. Yeah. Was your experience being famous for being on Baywatch, did it feel to you like there was kind of because Baywatch, in Baywatch, you wore a bathing suit a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. Bodies are very prominent on Baywatch. Did it have a feeling of kind of sexual energy with Baywatch fans? Was that your experience?
Not with me, because I was the smart one. I had dark hair that then I was long in the first season, then I cut it short, and I was very flat. I am very flat-chested still, which I really like my breasts, but in that day and age, it was considered like sets you apart, especially if you're a show on Baywatch. And I was also very athletic. I mean, Baywatch was my most favorite job because of being outside and in the sun and rescuing people and, getting to run around. You didn't have to wear a lot of makeup or heels, So it was,
I never thought of that. That's true.
oh yeah, you always knew what your wardrobe was going to be. So it was, and the people were just wonderful.
Alexandra was athletic on and off the show. In her spare time, she trained and completed marathons, long-distance swims, and triathlons, including the Ironman triathlon. And it was through the fitness world that she met her husband, Ian. He was training for a 7-day race in Colorado with a mutual friend.
That was 1995. We've been together 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were, while you're a celebrity, you're partnered together. Did you have how would you describe your kind of radar for the creepy factor? Like, it's not always, you can't always tell when somebody's being nice and then it kind of tilts over. Like, was that something that you honed throughout being a public figure? You kind of had that?
I think I have really good radar for people. I mean, all my lovers and boyfriends have been wonderful people. And my friends are just, they lift me up. They make me a better person. So I feel like I have a very good sense of that. I did, as soon as the stalker walked into my house, I got that something was off. And so did my husband. And we actually called a friend of ours who is in the Santa Monica Police Department and mentioned that it was weird because we live 2 miles up a hill this is what I kind of got later, but not in the moment.
Yeah.
We live 2 miles up a hill where a 6-year-old boy could have just easily stopped off to pee. There's no houses for 2 miles. And also, we lived in a complex of townhouses where we were the farthest from the road. So they would have had to pass like 8 doors maybe before getting to us. And so that did not occur to me at the moment.
Yeah.
But as soon as they left, my husband and I did call our friend at the Santa Monica Police Department who said, write it down.
Yeah.
And we had no idea that it was going to go anywhere. Although I was a little dismayed that the next day there was a gift and then the next day.
Yeah, it's interesting to know that even after that first encounter that you noticed just something, it just didn't feel right. You say something in the piece where you describe, ever the people pleaser. Yeah. Someone's at your door saying they need help. What is it to let somebody use your bathroom if it's a child? It sounds like that's a moment that you have looked back on it, like, why did I behave in that way? And why am I like that I let her in?
Yes, I feel like I let her into our lives. Although I talked to Detective Dumanis about this, and he's the detective who was on our case for 7 or 8 years, the last 7 or 8 years. She outlasted 2 other detectives. And he said, Alexandra, you can't control anything. And that, he tells a story of a tennis player who held a door open for a woman. And that was the signal to her that they were meant to be together forever. And she followed him for years. And the only thing that he did was held open a door. And so what Dumanis says is you can't control what they think because they will twist the story. If you choose the same apple at the grocery store, to them it means that you're meant to be together. But to you, it's just you're picking out your favorite apple.
And that's very helpful advice in one way, and also must have made you feel so helpless. Like there's nothing I can withhold or no way I can change my behavior that's going to change what's happening to me.
Well, I could have, and I did recognize that part of it is my people pleasing, which is very common among, actors. We don't want to alienate our fans. We want to be kind.
And also, you want to be a good celebrity. Yeah. The right
Yes.
kind of celebrity. Yeah.
And I also, I have a strong horror base from my first film, which was Christine, which is Stephen King, based on a Stephen King book and directed by John Carpenter. And I have a lot of fans in that area. And a lot of horror fans were wallflowers maybe when they were in high school. There's a lot of, they're not the cool, well, to me, they're super cool, but society would not view them as being cool. So I have a very open-hearted view of people who are different or odd. And also, in the beginning, when she was just acting odd, I was still being polite. And I also never said to her directly, stop contacting me, stop talking to me. It was my husband who did it twice. And so that fueled her story that I liked her, I was on her side, and that he was the big bad wolf who was stopping me from being with her. And I feel that I should have spoken up for myself. And at the same time, I want to say to people who might have a stalker is that the best thing is to be clear that you don't want someone to be contacting you, and then just keep documenting and ignoring, because it's it's the interaction which fuels their passion.
Despite ignoring her stalker, Alexandra had to face her half a dozen times in court. Coming up, how she prepared.
How are you going to react? Because you have to react in a way that will not make you look bad in the courts. You have to react in a way that shows that you are not the bad guy.
This episode is brought to you by Blink, an Amazon company. Think you're ready for Prime Day? With up to 50% off Blink Smart Security, you will be. With crisp HD video, real-time alerts, and two-way talk, you'll know the moment your packages arrive. Save big on Blink Smart Security, starting at just $19.99 with the Blink Mini 2 plug-in camera. Shop now at amazon.com/blink.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
There's a lot that Alexandra Paul still doesn't know about her stalker. Like, why did she become fixated on her? How did she keep finding her? She did find out the little boy who came to her house that first day was in fact her stalker's brother. He later returned to Germany to stay with his father. There are other things Alexandra says she knows now. Lessons she wants to impart for other people who are being stalked. Things you can do for yourself, like writing everything down and using public data wiping services to get rid of your personal data on the internet. And also avoiding using expressions of love or affection with strangers or fans when signing photos. And if you feel at risk, get the restraining order, she says, though it does take a lot of work to prove to the courts that you're being stalked.
In California, you have to fulfill 3 prongs. You have to have unwanted and repeated contact. You have to have a credible threat from the stalker, and that threat has to make you feel fear. So those are the 3 prongs. And it's not easy to get a credible threat, because sending flowers every day or 5 times a day or sending texts might not fall under stalking in California.
It was over a year into being stalked that Alexandra was able to prove that she felt fear from her stalker and that she was a credible threat. That moment came after her stalker physically tried to confront her in public. Even though it took Alexandra longer to get law enforcement involved than she would have liked, California has relatively robust stalking laws. In other states, it can be harder to bring charges. Like in New York, courts will only issue restraining orders to people who are family members or who have been in intimate relationships.
That means that a vast number of stalking victims, for example, students stalked by classmates, therapists being stalked by patients, employees being stalked by coworkers, celebrities being stalked by fans, are excluded from protections under the law.
Just this month, the New York State Senate passed a bill to try to broaden that lawmakers called the CREEP Act.
The CREEP Act follows the lead of 43 other states by creating a new anti-stalking order of protection through our civil court.
And while expanding what constitutes stalking might make it easier for people to seek help from law enforcement, the dynamics of intimate partner stalking and celebrity stalking are different. As part of her research into stalking, Alexandra talked to therapists who gave her a window into what her stalker might be experiencing.
So much of the celebrity stalkers have emotional and psychological mental issues. So whereas a jealous ex-spouse is angry and jealous, but they might not be delusional. They might not have been diagnosed with they might have behavioral issues, I suppose, but they don't have the mental issues that are so prevalent among celebrity stalkers. So in domestic partner stalking or other stalking, I think domestic partner stalking has a 50% violence rate. Celebrity stalking only has a 2% violence rate. So it's much, much lower. So I think that is the technical differences. How it feels, I think being a celebrity protects me a little bit because people are more apt to give me the benefit of the doubt in court because of America's or the Western world's infatuation with celebrity. So that is an advantage for the victim if they are a person of some kind of notoriety.
Another way that your experience just sounds so claustrophobic is you're trying to protect your personal space in your home, your neighborhood, be aware when your stalker is around. And then there's a front opened up online and she can come at you from any IP address, and she comes after your husband and tries to destroy his reputation.
Yeah.
Did that, like, when you were both dealing with that phase of the stalking, how did it change to feel like there was no way to build a fence big enough to protect yourselves from her effects?
We felt very powerless. We hired another private investigator, this time a cybersecurity expert, and they really couldn't help us find where she was. I mean, it was just basically what we were trying to do is find where she was so we could stop her from sending from all these puppet accounts, these false accusations, and trying to get Instagram to take down her accounts. And nowadays it's this online, because of her a lot, I am not very much on social media, which can very much affects the career of an actor, unfortunately. Sometimes they'll hire you depending upon how many followers you have. That might be the deal breaker between you getting a job and not getting a job, because they know how you can promote their product, their movie that you're in, if you have a lot of followers, and that's free advertising for them. And nowadays with influencers, social media influencers, they even more have to have an intimate rapport with their audience. And so they're even more vulnerable. They're looking into the camera, revealing a few little details of your personal life or a lot of details can build an intimacy in someone with who's mentally not in touch with reality, can actually really foment that feeling that this celebrity belongs to them and they're meant to be together.
It's so scary what you're describing. Like, it's just so, the idea that as an actor or anyone who's on the internet, there can be, just the switch flipped of thinking you're doing what is part of the job to create a relationship with an audience, and then you realize all the ways you've put the things that you hold most dear, your privacy, your relationship, your ability to control your and your family's reputation, is not something you're in charge of.
Yeah, it's scary. And it's happening more and more to people who don't have a huge public profile. And of the actors, it happens more than we know, because many of the A-list actors try and deal with it themselves because they don't want the publicity. I talk about this in the article that Madonna was pretty much, she was subpoenaed to go to court to testify against a man who threatened to slit her throat, and she did not want to go. And in the courtroom, but she had to, because the prosecutor needed to hear from her that she was afraid, because that is one of the tenets of bringing a stalking charge against somebody. It's not easy to bring a stalking charge. And Madonna in the courtroom said, "Here I am, 10 feet away from my stalker. You've just given him exactly what he wants." And she has a huge point. She has a very good point. But it's also very important that we go to court, because it's really it's the only thing that can protect us ultimately. If a stalker is obsessed, they won't stop.
How did you prepare what was it like for you to go to court knowing your stalker was going to be in the same room with you?
I was anxious. At the end, they didn't let us in the court at the same time, and she was so sick that several times she came to court and was sent back to the jail again. So, but in the beginning, I had this odd fear of her, because which doesn't make sense, because I was in control. She loved me. She wanted something from me. I did not need anything from her except for to stay away from me. And yet inside me, there was this really what felt like a fear that I shouldn't have. And I was ashamed of it. I mean, she came once I was volunteering with Food Not Bombs, and I volunteered there every week. And she showed up, and I hid in a closet and wept I was like a 6-year-old. And I was thinking to myself, why is she doing this to me? Why can't I? That's why I had to go to therapy, to try and deal with it. I went to therapy to do different therapists over the course of the 13 years to try and deal with it with more equanimity, so that she didn't rule my life, which is what she wanted, of course, is to have an effect on me, and she did.
I mean, it makes sense why you're trying to go do your volunteer work, and then it's not your time. She shows up. It makes sense why you would be upset.
But why couldn't I have just went to Guy, who is the biggest guy? He was the biggest guy in our group, and had I think he used to be a bouncer, in fact, and which he did end up going up to her saying, "Please leave." But why couldn't I have just done that without cowering in the corner? But I wish I was able to be stronger.
I think stronger versus weaker that's a very judgy framing, Alexandra. I think more how to steel yourself so it's not a surprise, so the emotional reaction sort of comes out. Like, what did you over time develop as a coping mechanism for how you could go out in public and try to steel yourself if she showed up.
I tried to have sort of a detachment, a Buddhist detachment, but it was all truthfully very intellectual and not, I was scared. And she had never physically hurt me. So why I was scared doesn't make a lot of sense, although Detective Dumanis did say that she was very dangerous. But I was afraid she would throw acid in my face or something because she vacillated so much between, it seemed, wanting to protect me to being angry at me.
How many people in your life, whether personal, loved ones, or professional contexts, how many people knew that this is something that you and your husband dealt with for 13 years?
We stopped talking about it after a while because it sounded so crazy. And we sounded crazy because there were so many incidents and we were quite emotionally wrapped up in it. But we did turn, I had friends. I had two friends whom I hiked with every week, and they were with me from the beginning. And so Shore, one of my friends, she had this sort of the outrage that I couldn't exhibit, that made me feel validated. And then my other hiking friend, Debbie, was a therapist and knew a lot about stalking and erotomania, which is a delusion that a lot of celebrity stalkers have, which is that the celebrity is in love with them and that they're meant to be together. And so I got from those two friends a lot of support, emotional support, and also rational support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I picturing those hikes where one friend is cursing on your behalf and the other is helping you understand. It sounds very helpful.
Yes, they were amazing.
What has it been like since July when your stalker died? When her ability to impact your daily life ended? What have you noticed about the ways it's changed your marriage? Like how you and Ian think about what you're going to do on a Saturday if you don't have plans? Like what's changed?
I was relieved when she died, and I felt I never voiced that because I felt ashamed of feeling relieved. But the truth is I was able to eventually acknowledge that I did feel relieved because I believe that she would not have stopped. And that is not uncommon among delusional stalkers, that they do not stop their stalking. And so she either had to turn her gaze onto someone else, or she had to die, or I had to die for it to stop. So Ian, it's like a weight off because we don't have to wonder if we're being followed. Like I know she followed us through. We had rituals in Los Angeles. We lived in Pacific Palisades, and we had rituals on Sundays, going to the farmer's market and then going to Whole Foods and then getting flowers. And we knew that she followed us because we would get, messages saying, how did you like the farmer's market? And I didn't, so many times I just never saw her. So that kind of feeling of disquiet that someone could be watching is gone. We feel relieved, and this part of our lives, Ian is an amazing person. He is amazing, and we are very much in love even after 30 years. So they say that when you have a traumatic incident, it can either pull you apart or it can bring you closer. And this definitely brought us closer because we did work together we were in it together, and so we worked together, and that brought us closer.
Yeah, it sounds like there was a lot of just work in documenting how you all were being victimized and harassed. A lot of paperwork, a lot of bills to be paid.
I did all that.
A lot of meetings.
Yes. I did all that, documenting and organizing, because I felt that was my responsibility since I was the reason.
Ugh. Have you noticed what's your appetite for being in front of the camera and having your image broadcast all over as an actor? Like, now that your stalker is no longer living, what's your comfort with public exposure?
I like people a lot. So I like being around people. I think I would be able to nip it in the bud earlier. And I'm also older now. I'm in my 60s now. So although I was 48 before and everyone thought it was over the hill and how weird that you got a stalker, especially if she's 20 years younger. So maybe age has nothing to do with it.
I think that one theme is you had very little control over this whole process.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Exactly. Yes. So I think I would be able to nip it in the bud right away if someone's weird. And I get that my spidey sense gets pricked, and I would not revert. And I'm clear on this to my nice self. I would be firm in terms of my boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's true. You can't control somebody. So I'm now taking care of my mother who has Parkinson's. So right now I'm not able to concentrate on acting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm planning on going back to it. And so I haven't been completely ruined of celebrity. I do have a lot of admiration for the celebrities who have to get up on stage and sing and be really in front of a lot of people all the time, and how vulnerable they are to a stalker who might be very angry at them for not responding to their email or their notes or whatever it is. That takes a lot of courage.
That's actress Alexandra Paul. We put a link to her Ankler essay in our show notes, and we thank them for letting Alexandra share an excerpt of her piece with you. You can find more of their entertainment industry coverage at theankler.com. This episode was produced by Zoe Azulay. The rest of the Death, Sex, and Money show team includes Andrew Dunn and Cameron Drews. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer. Mia Lobel is the head of Slate Podcast, and Hillary Fry is Slate's editor-in-chief. You can support the production of our show by joining our membership program, Slate Plus. You get bonus episodes of our show and other Slate shows, like From Decoder Ring and How To, and you also get to listen to all of Slate's podcasts ad-free. If you haven't already, subscribe directly from the Death, Sex, and Money show page on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or visit slate.com/DSM Plus to get access wherever you listen. Our theme music is by the Reverend John DeLure and Steve Lewis. If you're new to our show, welcome. We're glad you're here. You can find us and follow us on Instagram at Death, Sex, Money. And you can read my weekly newsletter at annasale.substack.com. And you can also reach us anytime with voice memos, pep talks, questions, or critiques. Our email address is deathsexmoney@slate.com. We love hearing from you. In addition to movies and Baywatch, Alexandra Paul has starred in nearly a dozen TV movies for Lifetime.
Well, even I did a movie on Lifetime about stalking. I mean, it's
you did?
Yes. Luckily, I was the mother of the stalked person.
Oh,
so
also a terrible position to be in.
Oh no, wait, I was a detective, I think. Oh no, both. Actually, I did too.
I'm Anna Sale, and this is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate.
Hi, I'm Kristen Bell, and if you know my husband Dax, then you also know he loves shopping for a car. Selling a car? Not so much.
We're really doing this, huh?
Thankfully, Carvana makes it easy. Answer a few questions, put in your VIN or license, and done. We sold ours in minutes this morning, and they'll come pick it up and pay us this afternoon.
Bye-bye, truckie.
Of course, we kept the favorite.
Hello, other truckie.
Sell your car with Carvana today. Terms and conditions apply.